I've worked with couples and individuals where they're in their 50s and they come in, they work with me, and they say, "Oh, my mom," or "I've never really connected to my dad." And like the guy will be 50 years old and his dad is like 75, right? And I'm like, "Okay, I think it's time." So we work with him on like repairing with his dad. How do I go and tell my dad, "Hey dad, I love you, and we haven't seen eye to eye, but could we be a little more to each other?" And he goes and he begrudgingly, terrifyingly tells his dad this, and the dad's like, "Yeah, I don't know how to do that, but sure, that sounds pretty good." And they're like, "Really? It's been 50 years and that's all it was a conversation?" But the transformation, even in these men at 50 years old, when they really connect to their dad and they get that love they've needed for 50 years, even then it's transformational. So if you can hit that mark when the kid is 4, 5, 6, it's so foundational to their existence. It's everything. Parents can be everything. They can be make or break in a lot of ways. Tell me a little bit more about this idea, that difference between tantrums and meltdowns. You drew that out earlier. For the parents at home who kind of are wondering, what does that look? How do I tell? How do I tell if my kid is tantruming or melting down? What's that severity rating? What are the signs? What are the signs of a kid who needs more help? Can you break that down for me a little bit?
Yeah, so it is very tricky sometimes to figure out the difference. At face value, they do oftentimes look very similar. Like it's a child who's just crying on the floor, screaming, and it really comes down to figuring out what happened beforehand, right? Was your child overwhelmed? What was the cause of it? They were overwhelmed because their environment was too stimulating for them. And essentially, if you think about what a meltdown is, it's imagine your child has a cup, and this cup can only hold so much. Now, you're filling it whenever there is stimuli in your environment. There's noise, there was a kid crying over there, there was a lot of movement because you were in a crowded place, and your child's cup is filling up to a point where they can't hold anymore and everything just spews out. That is what we call a meltdown. Your child cannot cope with that overwhelming feeling. And so everything just shuts down. They're not able to get themselves out of this feeling until they recharge their batteries and then they're able to think logically again. A tantrum, on the other hand, is when something doesn't go their way. Your child has this idea that I want to have that that yogurt, whatever, that strawberry yogurt, but someone else took it. I am upset and I didn't have my way. So your child's going to tantrum, demand that strawberry yogurt, and if you give it to them, they'll be perfectly fine. They're going to compose themselves again and move on like nothing happened. So that is the main difference between a meltdown and a tantrum, and how you handle both is very different.
One is based on stimulation of their system, and one is based on conflict and how they're managing conflict. So in a tantrum, I do this with couples. I have a little diagram I draw with my hands. Bear with me. My father was Italian, so I'm very, very movement with my hands. Forgive me, everybody at home. You've seen me do this for years. So you come into a conflict, and inside that conflict is two questions: Are our goals aligned, or are they opposed? And if they are opposed, do we really have to fight about it? That's the question inside conflict. Now, in a healthy system between two people, relationship is what we call it, in a healthy relationship system, you can actually stop and ask those questions of each other. Hey, here's my goal right now, but what's your goal? Okay, they're a little off. Can we work together to build mutual fulfillment and manage this? When my kids come to me, Daddy, I want ice cream for dinner. Okay, well, tell me a little more about that, kid. Why do you think that we should have ice cream for dinner? And they whatever ideas they have, they because I want it. Or well, okay, well, hey, you know what? Ice cream is not a dinner food because you're going to get sick. It's not going to take care of you. You're going to crash. It's really not great for you. What we could do is on Friday, when we have our special family day, maybe then we could go out for ice cream at an appropriate time in the afternoon. If between now and then we do this and this and this, let's build to that together. Let's build up to that moment. And you show them, yes, you can have what you want, but let's work on mutual fulfillment. And you train them into this and you actually follow through and be consistent. Don't lie to them about Friday. But when you have this conflict and you don't train your kids into cooperation, that conflict can lead to cooperation. If you instead stop them here, you train them that conflict inevitably leads to confrontation. And the tantrum is a confrontation skill of, I will storm the hill faster than you and fire down on you to take control of the position and then dictate to you how things are going to go. And this is what leads to a lot of attachment challenges as well. The avoidant person learns to run away from the conflict because it's hopeless. The anxious person learns to lay on the floor and beg for mercy during the conflict, and nobody can have a healthy conflict that moves into cooperation. So if you're seeing a kid who's trying to seize control, number one, I'm sure to some extent a little bit of that is healthy as they learn, but you're supposed to train them out of that. If you get stuck in it and move into confrontation with them, that's where you train them for confrontation for life. So I hear that, Lisa, 100%. A lot of my people are dealing with that now in their 40s and 50s. So it doesn't go away. It's best to train it now train it while they're adorable, because it's not adorable when they're 20, right?
Absolutely.